Now, from WYDC TV, this is Big Fox News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Anna Manuel. Thank you for joining us. New tonight, expanding access to COVID-19 boosters. The state of New York now considering following New York City's lead in allowing anyone who feels at risk to receive a booster. Big Fox's Matt Kleindienst has our top story.
Good evening, Ann. New York City lifted all barriers for residents to get their COVID booster, a move which Steuben County Health Director Darlene Smith expects the state to soon follow.
I expect the booster to be available to everyone sooner rather than later.
As COVID infections surged throughout the state, New York City made changes to its booster guidelines. The city health department lifted all barriers to vaccination and encouraged anyone over the age of 18 to get their booster shot, stepping ahead of current state and federal guidelines.
They can make some, decisions and rules and mandates that aren't necessarily what is happening across the rest of the state.
Shortly after the announcement, Governor Hochul declared that anyone who feels at risk based on their community interactions can get their booster. While this doesn't go as far as New York City's guidelines, Darlene Smith believes the state could soon allow anyone over the age of 18 to get their booster shot, joining states like California, Colorado, and New Mexico.
I'm not yet at liberty to change the parameters or the eligibility of who can receive the boosters at the clinics that I offer. But having said that, I do think that it will occur sooner rather than later.
Smith believes that making all New Yorkers eligible for the booster would increase how many residents show up to local clinics to get vaccinated.
I think that if the eligibility was opened up, then I think we would have quite a turnout at our vaccination clinics.
Matt Kleindienst, Big Fox, WYDC in Corning.
Cornell Community College is receiving more than $10,000 from the New York Research and Development Authority to help the campus continue to decarbonize. This funding comes from CCC's participation in the REV Challenge to lower college campus emissions. The money will be used to install real-time energy management systems in 7 of the academic buildings on campus. CCC is expected to get 2 more grant payments for future projects. Community organizations in Elmira are organizing a march next month to celebrate the best of the community. The Holiday Unity in the Community March will begin in Wisner Park and continue to Elmira City Hall with the goal to demonstrate how united the community really is. The Elmira Corning NAACP Economic Opportunity Program and Elmira Police are all expected to take part in the march. The march is set to take place December 4th around 1:30 p.m. President Biden is on the road today to again sell the newly signed bipartisan infrastructure bill. He's hoping to showcase all the money the projects will go to while pushing another spending bill for social programs. Lauren Blanchard is in Washington with more.
President Biden jetting to New Hampshire, part of his push to prove to the American people the $1.2 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill he signed Monday will help not only crumbling roads and bridges, but also the economy.
Roads and bridges and broadband and electric grid and a whole bunch of different infrastructure improvements that this country needs, quite honestly.
That's not where the sales pitch ends. The president will also make the case the money already passed by Congress is not enough, that more in the form of the nearly $2 trillion Build Back Better social spending bill is needed.
The BBB does a lot to reduce inflation because a lot of this inflation is caused by crimps in the supply chain. And the BBB has billions of dollars to deal with supply chain issues.
Republicans point to the supply chain and inflation problems as the reasons the bill should not be passed. And they're not alone. Moderates have been waiting for congressional budget scores for the bill before they'll sign on.
And it's not just the top line cost, it's the tax increases too.
President Biden's sales pitch continues Wednesday in Detroit. He's also hoping to give himself a little boost as his approval ratings have dropped to 41% as frustration over the economy grows. In Washington, Lauren Blanchard, Fox News.
Court is back in session in South Georgia in the trial of the 3 white men accused of killing Ahmaud Arbery. The county medical examiner taking the stand on the 8th day of the trial today and delivering graphic testimony. It comes one day after tense moments over pastors in the courtroom consoling Arbery's mother. Chris Wen has a closer look at the new details that surfaced today.
A critical witness takes the stand.
Shows the gunshot wound.
Jurors hearing graphic testimony from the medical examiner who performed an autopsy on Ahmaud Arbery after his death.
The hand was in front of the chest and was struck first, and then it entered the body.
Edmund Donahue describing severe wounds that were caused by 3 gunshot blasts and testifying that no matter what life-saving measures police attempted on the scene, Arbery would still have died.
And they couldn't do anything about the bleeding as long as the heart was beating.
In other words, is there anything they could have done on scene to save his life?
No.
3 white men, Travis McMichael, his father Greg McMichael, and their neighbor William Bryan, face felony murder and other charges in the February 2020 shooting of the 25-year-old in Brunswick, Georgia. They claim they were trying to make a citizen's arrest because they suspected Arbery of entering a vacant home following a string of neighborhood break-ins.
I'm not granting a mistrial.
Tuesday's testimony follows a tense day in the courtroom. On Monday, civil rights leader Reverend Jesse Jackson was there with Arbery's mother, prompting the defense to once again call for a mistrial. The judge refused that and rebuked an earlier request to remove black pastors from the courtroom.
So then we start getting into what we have now with individual members or individuals coming into the courtroom. I will say that is directly in response, Mr. Goff, to statements you made, which I find reprehensible.
I'm Chris Wynn reporting.
2 firefighters were hurt as crews battled a massive fire at this large estate home. The fire broke out around 6 this morning in Salisbury Township, Pennsylvania. There's no word on the extent of the firefighters' injuries or if anyone was in the house at the time of the fire. The cause of that fire is under investigation. Heavy rain and wind flood roads and knock out power in western Washington. The severe weather blew through the area Monday, and this was the aftermath Tuesday morning. The rain caused high water on the Skagit River. At one point Monday, more than 158,000 customers in western Washington were without power. Washington State Governor Jay Inslee declared a state of emergency for 14 counties. Still ahead tonight, as many as 160,000 active duty service members are struggling to provide enough food for their families as price surges are causing food banks themselves to have difficulties stocking supplies.
Due to the military life and the unique attributes of it, unfortunately, they often find themselves for some period of time, either by choice or by circumstance, living off of a single income, and it's just very difficult to make that happen.
More on how the hunger crisis is taking a toll on military families.
Here's your local stock market update from Big Fox. Now, your Twin Tiers forecast from Big Fox.
Tonight's Big Fox forecast is brought to you by William Mattar. Good evening, everyone. We did wake up to a little bit of snow earlier today, and most of that snow now is pressing off to the north and away from our area. Still left with a little bit of cloud cover. We did see a little bit of sunshine today. We're keeping our eyes on our next storm system, which will be arriving by the end of the week. This system is located in the Dakotas, and it does have a warm front that will continue to lift toward our area. We are expecting a warming trend for the next 24 hours, and then once that cold front comes through, we are expecting those temperatures to really plunge down. So here's a look at your headlines for the upcoming days. Tomorrow, clouds will start to increase as that storm system draws a little bit closer. Showers will be likely on Thursday. There could be a little bit of snow early on Friday, but we will dry out later in the day and a little bit cooler conditions on Friday as well. But out ahead of this system, again, we are expecting temperatures to be very mild for your Wednesday, but here comes that cold front. It will move into the Great Lakes region tomorrow. Out ahead of it, those showers will start to spread to the east. So tomorrow, if you're taking a walk, we are expecting a lot of cloud cover, possibly even an isolated shower by the end of the day. 41 degrees at 9 o'clock, 50 at noon. We do warm up into the mid-50s in the afternoon before dropping back down into the 40s at 5 o'clock in the evening. So by Thursday, this low pressure system will be moving to the east. It will send that cold front through. We see this dip in the jet stream, which means that colder air will start to drain to the south. And so if you notice the blue and the pink that's showing up for Thursday, that could be a little bit of snow and rain mix as we head into your Thursday night into Friday. So there is the possibility of a wintry mix as we wake up on Friday morning. But tomorrow, expect just a few clouds across our sky, maybe an isolated shower or two just west of us, but I'm expecting a few more showers to come in on Thursday. I think that's where the bulk of the rain will come in, and the rain will start to spread eastward. There could be an isolated thunderstorm or two, but notice the blue that's showing up behind all that swath of rain. We are expecting colder air to move in, so this precipitation will be switching over to snow Thursday night into early Friday. And I think by the end of the day Friday, we should start to dry out, and there could be a little bit of sunshine as well. But tonight, it is definitely going to be cold. We drop down into the 20s. Highs tomorrow will warm up into the 50s. 50 degrees in Corning and around 52 degrees in Elmira. It gets colder on Friday with the high around 43 degrees. We'll stay in the 40s through the weekend with overnight lows in the 20s and 30s.
The Department of Agriculture says more than 38 million Americans are food insecure. And food pantries across the country have seen a rising number of people needing help through the course of the pandemic. Chris Demio has more on how the hunger crisis is taking a toll on military families, plus the damaging effects inflation and the clogged supply chain are having on the organizations so many rely on for their next meal.
I really don't know how to put it into words.
For many Americans facing food insecurity, every day can be a struggle. And according to Feeding America, the struggle is especially real for military families. The nonprofit organization oversees more than 200 food banks nationwide and says as many as 160,000 active duty service members are having difficulties putting food on the table.
Due to the military life and the unique attributes of it, unfortunately, they often find themselves for some period of time, either by choice or by circumstance, living off of a single income, and it's just very difficult to make that happen.
Experts say the issue has been impacting military families for years, but is amplified because of the pandemic. And Feeding America says younger members are bearing the brunt, with roughly 29% of the lowest-ranking troops dealing with hunger last year alone. Military families say it usually comes down to what they're paid.
It really depends on the time in service. Like, I've only been in for 5 years, so the longer you stay in, obviously, the more you get paid. So when you're just starting out, it's a lot tougher.
But heading into the holidays, ongoing inflation is causing the price of produce to skyrocket.
The rising costs that you're seeing at the grocery store, we see the same thing as a food bank, just on a much larger scale.
And food banks themselves are struggling to supply those in need with enough to eat, forcing some to reduce serving sizes or eliminate more expensive items altogether, as many pantry staples are up by almost 10%.
Florida lawmakers are considering withdrawing from the Federal Workplace Safety Administration, known as OSHA, and giving the state more control over worker safety. Catherine Hawley has more.
Celia, please call the roll.
Committees in both the Florida House and Senate discussing bills that could be a first step for the state to regulate worker safety instead of the federal government.
The bill only directs the executive office of the governor to develop a proposal for a state OSHA plan.
The identical bills are only 3 pages long. The point is to give the governor the green light to generate a plan for a state-run OSHA program. The proposed legislation comes after OSHA issued a rule that would require tens of millions of workers nationwide be vaccinated against COVID-19 or regularly tested. That rule is being challenged in court and currently on hold.
Florida knows Florida better than Washington, D.C. will ever know Florida.
The law does allow states to withdraw from federal OSHA. 21, along with Puerto Rico, have already formed their own agencies protecting both private and government workers.
If a state has an approved program, they still have to adopt standards that are at least as effective as OSHA standard or identical to OSHA standard.
Meaning a state workforce safety program will not give Florida any additional power for enforcing or not enforcing vaccine requirements. Florida would still need to comply with all OSHA rules.
This is a 2 to 3 year process. Once you do it, once you complete your plan and your structure for how you're going to enforce it, It has to go through a multi-level review process at the federal government.
Florida would also have to come up with half the money that federal OSHA spends now in the state of Florida.
She says if the feds sign off on the idea, a state-run program could cost millions in taxpayer dollars. However, it would also likely expand workplace regulation to include state and local government employees who currently have no protection.
They need to take it seriously. They can't play political football with the health and safety of millions of working Floridians around the state.
The supply chain crisis is proving to be a real Grinch ahead of the holidays, and marketing experts say limited supplies could cost desperate buyers to make some costly decisions. Kevin Cork has more tips and tricks you need to know to save money and avoid scammers.
Buyer beware. Ongoing kinks in the supply chain could cause some consumers to make risky holiday purchases.
As the supply becomes more scarce and more sporadic, they may be motivated to go outside of the typical well-known vendors and venture to make a purchase with an unknown vendor and end up potentially with a counterfeit product.
But you don't need to be a cybersecurity expert to avoid being scammed online. Officials say there's several things to look out for to ensure you're on a credible site, including
a lock icon next to the URL, a URL that starts with HTTPS, looking for misspelled company or domain names.
Meanwhile, in-store purchases are still going strong, and this year, the pandemic is fueling the luxury market.
There are people that really want to get dressed up again, and they're excited to buy, something that has that logo on it.
And with Thanksgiving right around the corner, experts say before you hit up the Black Friday sales, it's important to be grateful for what you already have, especially as the world continues mending from the effects of the pandemic.
Acknowledge that we are here, that we are together. Acknowledge those that we have lost, and acknowledge that we may be emotionally spent after a difficult year.
And it turns out showing thanks can actually help keep you healthy. Scientists say expressing gratitude can actually boost your immune system and even, wait for it, help you sleep better. I'm Kevin Cork.
Since inflation and the labor shortage are making the cost of your holiday meals spike, here are some tips to trim your meat purchases this festive season. Look around to see which meat cuts are the cheapest. According to some experts, whole hams, chicken legs, whole chickens, and bone-in pork chops tend to remain about the same in price, even during inflation. Other cuts, which usually run less expensive, include hanger steak, flank steak, chuck steak, and beef short ribs. Experts also recommend bone-in and unmarinated options for some extra savings. A nonprofit partners with community leaders in California to help parents save up for their children. Christy Gross spoke with a parent about what this new savings account means for their child's future.
This is just life-changing for my family.
The future is bright for 4-year-old Galila Acevedo.
She likes to paint. She's very artistic. She's always painting rainbows.
Whether the young girl decides to go to college or pursues a trade, she and thousands of other students her age will have some money in the bank to help get them started. It's part of a new San Joaquin A+ Child Savings Account pilot program.
They get a $750 seed deposit into a child savings account that they'll be able to access once they turn 18 and graduate high school to go towards any post-secondary opportunity, whether that be 2-year college, 4-year, any vocational or trade program.
The nonprofit says by the time those students go from playground to graduation, they'll have at least $1,800 in that savings account.
Such a magical thing. My brain just couldn't comprehend how the opportunity that the community is giving to us.
The pilot program is funded by a $4.6 million state grant. Students ages 3 and 4 who currently attend a state-subsidized preschool are eligible for an account.
It doesn't take away from any additional government assistance, any scholarship opportunities, any financial aid. It doesn't take away from any of that. It's its own standalone account because the parents and the families own it.
The program is expected to grow from at least 2,000 students this school year to nearly 5,000 students by the end of the 3-year grant. Families like the Acevedos are banking on that money being a head start on their child's path to success.
When I think of her future, it's giving me hope. Like hope of an opportunity for her to go to college, to go to university.
We want to leave you with a smile tonight. Those old wired headphones you have? Well, they're making a comeback. Celebrities and TikTokers are making the case to bring back retro corded headphones. One reason? They cost about $100 less than the most basic second-generation AirPod, and the visible wires might help you get out of an unwanted conversation by making you appear unavailable to the outside world. However, remember, Apple removed the headphone port from their phones when the iPhone 7 was released in 2016, requiring users to purchase a separate connector to listen with wired headphones. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.